Amid the bayous and swampland of Louisiana sits the vibrant city of New Orleans. But across the water from its famous jazz-filled streets, suburban life in Slidell suits those seeking a bit more peace. It's where Sharif Kuzan has just moved into a new home with his family. But he didn't always have so much space.
Late yesterday, police arrested Sharif Kuzan.
In 1995, aged just 16, Sharif was accused of a murder he did not commit and sent to Louisiana's death row.
That's an experience that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I had to degrade myself to the point, the same toilet that I urinate and defecate in, to take that water and throw it on my body to cool me off every day. That was trauma.
After 4 years, he was exonerated and freed. But the impact of life on death row has never left him.
Life for me would never be the same. I never really, to this day, know what makes me happy.
Since 2002, 9 others have been exonerated in Louisiana, while only 2 have been executed. But now, the state's death row could be almost completely cleared.
Nearing the end of his 8-year tenure in office, Louisiana's Governor John Bel Edwards broke his silence on capital punishment. Addressing the legislature at the Louisiana state capitol in April, he called on lawmakers to back a bill to abolish the death penalty.
It is wholly inconsistent with Louisiana's pro-life values, as it quite literally, by definition, promotes a culture of death.
The bill failed to pass, but Governor Edwards now has a chance to back up his words with action.
For the first time in Louisiana's history, lawyers from across the state and country have worked together to submit applications for clemency for 56 of the 57 inmates on death row. The 57th chose not to apply. The applications will be reviewed by the Board of Parole and Pardons, and if approved, sent to Governor Edwards for his consideration. In downtown New Orleans, the Mwalimu Center for Justice is one of the legal offices leading this momentous effort. But they want to be clear that granting clemency will not result in anyone being freed.
These 56 people are not asking to go back out into society. They're not asking to be released. This is simply a request that the board exercise their mercy and allow them to spend the rest of their days in prison rather than be executed.
This process has rarely been done in the States, let alone in the conservative South. Since the death penalty was reinstated in 1976, only 2 people on Louisiana's death row have been granted clemency. It's ambitious, but by submitting all 56 applications at once, the lawyers hope to make a wider point.
I would say that it sends a clear message about the death penalty system in Louisiana, that it is broken beyond repair, that there are significant issues, both with who is on death row and how they got there.
Those issues make up many of the grounds on which clemency is being requested. 20 cases involve evidence of intellectual disability, while prosecutorial misconduct and severe trauma cast doubt on others. And like with Sharif's case, there are even some questions of innocence. There are also sharp racial disparities in the application of the death penalty. 67% of Louisiana's death row inmates are black, though they form about a third of the population. Researchers say this is inseparable from the state's history of slavery.
The criminal justice system has continuously preyed upon black people since it ceased to be a slave state. You just have to look at the largest state prison, the Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola.
The prison, located in the back roads of North Louisiana, was once a plantation named after the country Angola, supposedly so that slaves would not miss home. It still retains that name today.
If you think about it, when people are picking crops with hand tools as punishment for a crime they did not commit, if there's a distinction between that and slavery 160 or so years ago, it's a very fine distinction.
The inmates await their fate in Angola, sweltering in the 40-degree humidity with no air conditioning. But their hopes of receiving clemency rest on a knife's edge.
With a new governor entering office in January 2024, the window of opportunity for all 56 cases to be heard by the board and approved by Governor Edwards is just a matter of months. but 60 days' notice is required before any clemency hearing can take place.
If the process isn't completed in time, then the most likely successor to Governor Edwards the inmates and lawyers will be facing is Republican Attorney General Jeff Landry. Endorsed by Donald Trump, Mr. Landry is one of Louisiana's most vocal proponents of the death penalty. In the face of lethal injection drug shortages, he called for executions to be accelerated by any means, suggesting a return to the use of hangings and firing squads. His political opponents say if he is elected, there's little hope for those on death row.
In my opinion, Jeff Landry brings the state backwards 50 years, easily. He has no respect for anybody who is in a different category than the one he likes.
Mr. Landry did not reply to a request for comment, but he has already said he would oppose all of the petitions. And he is not alone in pushing back. High-profile prosecutors have criticised the applications, saying they do not follow procedure. Lauren Lampert, head of the Louisiana District Attorneys Association, says the rush to free what he calls the worst of the worst is disrespectful to victims' families.
They just feel like they've been gut punched. It is not appropriate for them to create a false emergency and superimpose it upon this situation where you have these victims who are being caught off guard and blindsided.
Typically in Louisiana, death row inmates use 3 stages of appeals before requesting clemency. But defense attorneys say the applications are wholly legitimate.
In this instance, under Louisiana's law, there's nothing preventing folks from asking for clemency earlier.
While the disputes threaten to delay the hearings, at the heart of these events is whether a southern state can defy expectations and step away from the death penalty. Sharif Kuzan believes they can.
Doesn't matter if we're in the South, we don't have to continue and perpetuate a cycle that we know doesn't work. I'm going to see the death penalty in Louisiana abolished. I'm going to see it.
The 56 prisoners awaiting execution will be hoping he is right.